So thank you, Megan, for that great introduction, and all of you for joining us here today at our 13th Innovate in our 10th year as a company. So many have contributed to this day for sure, our dedicated colleagues and our clients and our partners. We've been coming together a lot as a company, and we are coming together with more ease, but there are more turbulent times ahead. And maybe on a fairly somber note, we had a colleague, Dennis Yakimov. We had acquired Amenity AI in 2022, which was a wonderful acquisition for us strategically and a wonderful group of people joining us and a large team in Tel Aviv. On March 1st, we did learn that Dennis was killed in Gaza at the front. We had several of us SIMs that were sent. So, he sent me some notes. I had a nice relationship with him and then some DM, and he said, as a doing person, I could not stay at home on Saturday and started to look for places to donate blood, him and his brother, and we already knew that they were going to be mobilized soon. So he just took action, he went out, and in honor of these heroes and so many around the world, and more importantly the doers, maybe just a brief moment to recognize Dennis. So that's a heavy moment, and I realize that. But it is important to recognize both the man and the moment at times. And it really is a big moment on so many levels across the whole world. I think we all see it and feel it. And it does let us know that we're connected to each other in so many different ways. We do seem to be living through epic times. We hear it all the time. And the impact of action, or more importantly, inaction, is growing by the day. The conversation on AI is all around us. I'm not the first, but to frame it, recently picked up a book, Kate Crawford, The Atlas of AI, a really compelling view of what AI is. And she starts by really saying it is not technology completely, meaning there's a lot more to it than technology, the microchips, the data centers, the large language models. It involves extracting a huge amount of materials from the earth to build. She calls this extractivism, I like the term. Social systems, cultural systems, geopolitical systems, the regulations we need and the power we need. It's all very much part of this complicated puzzle. So the idea of AI is really about the much larger impact that it will have on humanity, both physically maybe, but certainly emotionally and mentally. And she speaks to these power structures that AI will both enforce and create. Others have similar views of AI that are out there and smart, apparently. And maybe it's critical to look at this through a different lens, or maybe a larger lens. So Jamie Dimon says, the printing press, computers, electricity, this is as big as those things. I tend to agree. Where I might nuance that a little is I'm not sure those are independent as much as the additive elements over time that have created AI and compounding it. And then, AI is built on words, it's built on power, and it's built with computers, so these things are not independent. Elon Musk says, in the next 1 to 2 years, smarter than any one person, the next 5, smarter than all humans combined, and clearly there's a lot of connections of people and data being made through these new technologies, but sort of questions, what is intelligence? Is it automation of task management, or is it a little larger than that? So even to step up to a larger frame and a longer time, Mustafa Suleyman, who is the founder of DeepMind, sold to Google. He wrote a book, The Coming Wave, and he's now the CEO of Microsoft AI. He talks about general purpose technologies, and there have been 24 through time introduced. They get cheaper and they get widely distributed. It could take thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or tens of years, it depends. But most importantly, he looks at this through time. He concludes that technologies like AI are coming faster, and the impacts that they're having on us are more meaningful, socially, physically, et cetera. So you can be early, and you could be pretty early, but you really can't be late on this one, and you probably can't be very late. So let's move into this idea of change and disruption over time a little bit more clearly. So he refers to these 24 general purpose technologies. We've discovered things, or you invented them, fire, stone tools, the wheel, and over hundreds of thousands of years, literally, our digestive system shrank, our jaws shrank, our brains enlarged from the ability to use these technologies, and it actually changed who we are physically over those hundreds of thousands of years and evolved our physiques and who we are in our brain. Then you move to the plows and the printing press, the agricultural and industrial revolutions. Other tech emerges, domestication of food sources, the printing press, electricity. These technologies change the social systems, our ability to grow as a population and change where we lived. But now more enter real tech as we think about it and tech as we know it. The last 100 years maybe and a few forward, it's exploded in a very nonlinear way. From airplanes to mobile phones, this is all in our lifetimes and more to come. So we're headed way up and to the right at an eye-watering pace. But as individuals, we tend to move through time in a not so parabolic space or way. It tends to be, much flatter through time. And individuals through their lifetime, historically, have not experienced a lot of these technologies, or maybe any of them, literally, certainly in the early days. But more recently, the last few hundred years, these technologies seem to be becoming more and more, hitting us at an accelerating rate. They're connecting us to each other. And Thomas Friedman quoted in his book, Thank You for Being Late, The Age of Accelerations. You could argue we're 20 years in and we have about 20 or 25 to go. It's like a 50-year window, coming in waves and pushing us all forward. In our personal lives, we experience this all the time. It's happening right now, right in our pocket, on the planet every day. In here, as fin and tech, we're really at the intersection of quite a bit of this. And we're all part of these systems that we're creating and building and rolling them forward. And by we, I literally mean this room. So think of two strands through time, one of them being financial markets innovations and changes, and one of them being technology. And these are intertwining through long periods of time. The 1700s, 1800s, it's more stocks and buttonwood trees and whatever happened, and maybe the automation was moving things in cars and Brinks trucks, for a while. The 1930s hit regulations, and it sort of starts it off in a bigger direction. But then the 50s come, and you have mainframes, you have 80s PCs, you have 90s internet, the 2010s cloud, e-commerce, and obviously we have things like AI and quantum on the come. And underneath that you have modern finance, LBOs and bond markets in the 80s, 90s derivatives. By the time you hit the 10s and 2000s, you have ETFs, et cetera. And now going forward, you have digital markets and tokenization. So in our space, very directly, the technology is here and making a difference every day. It's always been, and more is coming our way. Personally, I think it's thrilling. It's why we're here, it's what we're about, and it's how we're trying to roll these disruption forward. Now, the links between these technologies and finance is growing stronger and intertwining more by the day, as you can see by my ramen noodles. But let's step back, again, to AI and this big impact, and again to Kate Crawford. So she doesn't only try to define AI as something bigger, but talks about the impact of it. And she really zeroes in on this idea that there's a big impact, it's being optimized, it's being done by certain people with certain intents, and who gets to decide those things. So a lot of the book is who's really in control of these things, and the stakes cannot be higher. I think that's probably obvious at this point. We shouldn't be confused, maybe, but it's easily confusing, or paralyzed. In my little world, I got both of my children in their 20s to delete TikTok 6 months ago off their phone. Big move, 2 years of discussion. I just know they're being trained to continue to use it. There's a model in there, so that's that. But as a community here, we could determine our intent, we can assess the risk, and we can iterate forward. And as a community, that is why we're here. And it's important to put these things in perspective over time and not get confused or paralyzed, and with putting the right people with the right intent in the right place to do the job, solving the right problems. So moving again, 2 million years, humanity, evolution, fire, wheel, stone, 10,000 years agricultural, 500 years industrial revolution. But again, right in this information age revolution, 2000 to 2050 maybe. And we can and must take individual and collective action. So it's interesting to think about, all these big things and big ideas, and it's all so important, and look at how smart everybody is writing their books and maybe building something or nothing. It's hard to tell, and all these things come in big and small cycles. But in the end, we, all of us, are required, because it's our jobs, to deliver simple things like today, while we're building to the future. So we can tell you it's not a blank slate, and that's the big fun part for us, at least. Part of the simple value is literally being in this room today. Think about us as a platform with microservices and APIs, like literally sitting here as humans. And during these epic times, where technology is at the core and both capital and time are pretty finite, we are driving our own version of what I call the three-body system. Three-body problem is a great show. Us, you, and them. How do we connect these things in a way And Symphony plays a role in that. We believe that. We've been part of that, but we only play a role. We're so excited to see our partners here today, the DTCC, showing how we're going to help settlement exception management as T+1 hits. You'll see this and other things in short order. We're really excited to show you things in data. I know that's shocking, but there's a lot of conversations about that in both voice space and identity. So stay tuned for Cloud9 and some of the work we're doing around directory. And finally, we have a lot more to show you on ECP and our embeddability. It's probably the biggest strategic move we've made in the last couple of years, not just going to Symphony, but we can distribute our network, our community, and our work into other applications. And again, you'll see a lot of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike to finish up Keynote. We are so appreciative that you're here today. The weather, time, everything. We know all of this is not free. Please enjoy. We hope you do. We try to keep it tight and fast so it doesn't feel like 4 or 5 hours sitting. We thank you for coming and turning it over to my incredibly capable Chief Product Officer, builder of the future, Michael Lynch.